Some children grow up surrounded by words, yet feel a quiet absence. Words are everywhere, descriptions of what to do, how to behave, even explanations of the world, but rarely words for what lives inside. They learn to talk about events, achievements, mistakes, but not about fear, grief, or longing. Emotions arrive, raw and unmarked. A tightness in the chest without a name. A sudden swell of anger with nowhere to go. A sadness that drifts silently, unnamed, unexamined. In these homes, feelings are often spoken about in code. A sigh, a gesture, a hurried glance. Children learn to interpret without understanding, to survive without translation. Over time, this absence becomes familiar. Life moves forward, routines continue, relationships form. Yet inside, something remains distant, an unnamed companion shaping perception, decisions, and connections. Growing up without emotional language is not about silence alone. It is about missing the map that guides a person through their inner world. Feelings are not denied. They are felt incompletely, half understood, or misread. This quiet gap does not disappear with adulthood. It shapes every thought, every reaction, every attempt to connect. Moments of joy, fear, or sadness are experienced, but their contours remain vague, their edges unclear. This is a story about that absence, and about what it takes to meet oneself for the first time, because when emotions are never named, they do not vanish, they quietly shape a lifetime. The first awareness of emotional silence often comes subtly. It is not a sudden revelation, but a quiet noticing, a pause in understanding oneself. Some adults realize it in relationship. They notice that when conflict arises, they cannot name what they feel, or that joy, instead of swelling naturally, feels distant or incomplete. They might sense tension in their chest, a flutter in their stomach, or a hollow ache, but the words to describe it do not come. Others recognize it in solitude. Moments of reflection reveal a puzzling emptiness, a distance from their own emotional life. Feelings exist undeniably, yet they are uncharted. There is no language to articulate fear, shame, or longing. The recognition is often accompanied by subtle frustration, a sense that something essential is missing, a gap in the bridge between inner experience and outward expression. They notice patterns repeated from childhood, difficulty asking for help, confusion in relationships, or avoidance of intense feelings. This silence is not emptiness. It is presence without translation. A companion that has always existed but remained unnamed. And with awareness comes a quiet shock. It is not about blame or failure. It is simply the realization that living without emotional language leaves a person navigating life without a map. This is the starting point, the moment of recognition that the missing vocabulary of feelings has quietly guided every decision, every connection, and every sense of self. From here, the journey toward understanding begins. Emotional language is learned before it can be consciously chosen. Children absorb it from caregivers, from the tone of the household, from the words that are spoken and the words that are not. Some grow up in homes where feelings are acknowledged only when they become inconvenient. Anger is shouted, grief is ignored, joy is fleetingly noted. Emotions are judged, minimized, or dismissed. In such spaces, a child quickly learns that naming feelings can feel unsafe. Other environments teach control through compliance. Children are praised for behavior, not for honesty of experience. Achievement is celebrated, expression is contained. To survive, emotions are quietly tucked away, translated into actions rather than word. Cultural and familial norms often play a role as well. Some communities prize stoicism, others favor productivity over introspection. Emotional expression becomes a luxury, not a necessity. Over time, the absence of emotional language shapes adaptation. Children learn to navigate the world by observing cues, reading gestures, and internalizing what cannot be spoken. They develop intuition for others' needs while losing touch with their own. This early absence does not mean feelings do not exist. They do, vivid, complex, and unprocessed, but they remain invisible even to the self, and so strength, composure, or compliance are often mistaken for resilience. What truly develops is survival without translation, a life guided by unspoken currents, where emotions exist, but the language to name and understand them has never been offered. Emotions are not just felt, they are learned. From infancy, the brain begins to map experiences onto language. When a caregiver names a feeling, "You are sad," "You seem frustrated," the child begins to attach words to the sensations swirling inside. This creates a bridge between internal experience and external understanding. Without that bridge, the mind still experiences emotion, but it lacks clarity. Fear may feel like restlessness. Anger may feel like tension in the shoulders. Sadness may feel like heaviness in the chest, unconnected to any word that defines it. Psychologists call this process emotional labeling, and it plays a critical role in self-regulation. When emotions are named, they can be understood, expressed, and managed. When words are absent, feelings are more likely to become overwhelming, misdirected, or suppressed. Neurologically, the brain develops adaptive strategies in response. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and reflection, works harder to manage unprocessed emotions. Stress responses can become heightened. Over time, emotional confusion can appear as irritability, withdrawal, or detachment. Growing up without emotional language is not a flaw. It is a developmental gap shaped by environment. The mind learns to navigate without the maps that others are given. The effect is subtle but lasting. A person who never learned to name emotions carries a lifetime of internal experience that is rich, real, but often invisible to themselves and to everyone around them. To live without emotional language is to navigate a world of feelings without a compass. Emotions are experienced fully, yet their meaning remains elusive. A swelling sadness, a sudden anxiety, a quiet joy, they exist, but cannot be translated into words that make sense. This creates tension in everyday life. Relationships feel confusing. The reactions of others are interpreted cautiously, while the person struggles to express what is happening inside. Misunderstandings arise not from lack of care, but from absence of vocabulary. Internally, the effect is subtle but persistent. Feelings that cannot be named may grow, creating a sense of overwhelm or numbness. The mind develops patterns to cope: distraction, rationalization, or dissociation. The body carries the emotions that the mind cannot articulate. Tension in shoulders, racing heartbeat, shallow breathing. These are the words the brain uses when words fail. Socially, living without translation can feel isolating. Others may assume emotional clarity, leaving the person silent or misunderstood. Attempts to express may feel clumsy, incomplete, or rejected. Over time, it becomes easier to internalize to contain, to avoid. And yet, this silence is not emptiness. Emotions are present. They shape decisions, shape connections, shape the sense of self. The challenge is subtle: to live fully in a world where feelings exist, but the language to navigate them is missing. It is a life lived in translation, where internal experience waits for a voice it has never known. The recognition often arrives quietly, not as a crisis, but as a subtle awareness. A conversation that feels oddly confusing, a relationship that repeatedly falters, a moment of emotional overwhelm that feels unfamiliar, even frightening. It is in these moments that the person notices, "I feel, but I do not know what I feel." This is the turning point, the first acknowledgement that the absence of emotional language has shaped more than childhood. It has guided choices, relationships, and the perception of self for decades. There is often a mixture of relief and discomfort. Relief that the difficulty is not personal flaw. Discomfort at realizing the scope of what has been missing. A child once adapted to survive in an environment where emotions were unspoken, and that adaptation persists silently into adulthood. This realization is rarely dramatic. It is felt in small, recurring patterns: avoiding confrontation, numbing sensation, interpreting emotions through guesswork, or feeling disconnected from one's own body. And yet, this awareness carries possibility. For the first time, the absence is recognized as absence, not as failure. It becomes clear that the silence was learned, that the nervous system, the mind, and the heart can begin to relearn. The moment of recognition is gentle. It is an invitation rather than a command, a quiet acknowledgement that understanding one's own inner world is possible even after years of living without the words to do so. Learning to name emotions is a gradual, delicate process. It begins not with grand insight, but with small moments of awareness, a fleeting recognition of sadness, a hint of anger acknowledged without judgment, a spark of joy identified and allowed to exist. Each word is a bridge between the body's sensations and the mind's understanding. It transforms vague restlessness into anxiety. It turns silent heaviness into grief. It allows a flutter in the chest to be called excitement, or fear, or longing. This process requires patience, The mind must relearn to map sensations to language. The nervous system must discover that naming emotion does not threaten stability. Mistakes are part of the learning. Mislabeling, overgeneralizing, hesitating. Each attempt, however imperfect, strengthens the connection between inner experience and conscious recognition. Relationships begin to shift as well. As words emerge, the person can communicate with subtlety, clarity, and honesty. Emotions become shared, rather than silently carried. Connection deepens, not because feelings are fixed, but because they are acknowledged. Naming emotions does not erase difficulty. It does not remove complexity. It simply gives presence a voice. Over time, emotional language becomes a companion, a way to navigate life with clarity without losing depth. The inner world is no longer a silent maze. It is a landscape gradually explored, understood, and finally spoken. There comes a moment when the silence begins to ease, when emotions no longer arrive as strangers, but as visitors who can finally be named. Joy, sorrow, fear, and longing are recognized for what they are. They are not threats, they are messages. Each one carries information about self, desire, and connection. The person who once navigated life without emotional language discovers that feelings do not have to be overwhelming. They can be observed, understood, and expressed. The internal landscape is no longer a fog. It has contours, valleys, peaks, and streams. This does not mean every emotion is easy. Grief still stings. Anger still tightens the chest. But now, these sensations are no longer anonymous. They are words, sentences, conversations with oneself. Relationships transform quietly. Connection deepens because communication becomes genuine. Not performance, not guessing, but shared understanding. There is a subtle freedom in this, a sense of wholeness that was once impossible. Strength is no longer measured by silence or endurance. It is measured by presence. The journey does not end. Learning the language of emotion is lifelong. But each named feeling is a step toward integration. And finally, the person realizes, to know one's own emotions is not to be fragile. It is to be fully human. To feel, to understand, to exist. To be seen by oneself, at last, as one truly is.